I will maybe show you the display here I have in the studio of some of the drawings that I did without the camera and without talking. Just just drawing, and it was a little bit different. The drawings are a little bit more focused and more advanced in terms of how precise they are, how thorough. But with words, with speaking, it's a new experience too. So the action only facilitates the thought process. Welcome back, imaginary viewer. Today I am in the noisy room in the city. There will be trains, cool guys on loud motorbikes passing by. I will try to edit them out as much as I can, but the ambient noise is always here, and that's something to adapt to. So I had an idea in mind about how to make this experience a little bit different. Introducing something new is always a nice kind of like a breath of fresh air. And one strategy I had in mind was to draw continuously without lifting the pencil. So basically draw one continuous line, starting maybe here or here, but making sure that the line is continuous, but also that the lines don't cross each other at any point. It will be kind of like a very intricate maze. I have some spots here. Maybe I can start from here. I don't know what it will feel like. I might change my mind in the middle and just start the same way I have always done. But it might be kind of a nice experience of almost like going out for a walk. And I'm not sure how it's going to affect my talk, and I will have to figure out to what extent I want to slow down the line. And there will be some just random decision making about where to take the line, and strategizing in order to avoid crossing them. That does take more focus than my other drawings, and there's a lot of this kind of uncertainty of not knowing where to take it, which will affect the way I form my sentences and think about stuff. But so far it's quite fun. So far the day is going okay. Just kind of started. I overslept a little bit today. I just found myself awake in the middle of the night and kind of agitated. I don't know why. But then when I went back to sleep, I ended up sleeping until 9:30 in the morning. And yesterday we had kind of a first warm spring day on the 10th of March. It was very pleasant to just go outside and feel comfortable outside without any shields and layers of clothes. And you can actually smell everything better. You can smell the soil, you can smell even the tree sap, you can smell tree bark, you can smell whatever plants are trying to emerge. You can smell water when there's water nearby. And all the lines are touching there. And I wonder if it's allowed. Floor is lava. You can't touch the lines. You have this inner need for creating games and challenges. And if we don't have a real one, we come up with imaginary ones. And because of this kind of gamification mindset, we're actually quite prone to follow these rules that we make or someone else makes. And it's just satisfying for us to follow the rules. And I found it quite evident when I was coaching parkour, when I found students imitating what I do, even though it wasn't meant for a part of the class. And then students expecting me to come up with some rules and asking what the rules are. Can we touch the floor? Can we use our hands? Is floor lava? And we kind of really are hooked on this, and navigating within certain set of rules because it makes us calmer in some way. That's what makes people occasionally choose leaders that tell them what to do, because they're tired of deciding all the time. It's hard. Decisions are hard. It's fatiguing. And all this relativism out there. What's good? What to choose? You have a strong leader who can tell you all these things, then you think you can relax and get on with your life. But then it turns out that the walls have ears, your neighbors are listening, ratting you out to the government, then you're being arrested for being a reactionary. You're being declared the enemy of the people, the enemy of the state. And it's only because you didn't know what to choose, paper or plastic, or all the other decisions were exhausting for you, so you chose a leader that will choose for you, but then it backfires. Oh no, my pencil is getting dull and I have to turn it without lifting it. Floor is still lava. Yeah, I don't know. I think I like the other type of activity better, the kind of making these vague clouds. So maybe I'll just abandon this and switch. And then I'm kind of curious about what the final result will be. Except that I have this thing where once I am invested into something, it's hard for me to suddenly change course. it's almost as hard as quitting a job. Like I know that it doesn't quite work out because I feel a little too, it doesn't feel like meditation. Okay, so I lifted the pencil. It didn't feel like meditation. It felt more like a very strenuous mind task. So I'll just start here with my usual mode of creating these more like vague cloud-like shapes, and then eventually this will collide. These two worlds will collide. There are like two galaxies that are moving toward each other, and they will collide eventually. It's still warm today. All the snow melted. We went for a bike ride along the bay. You know, the piers, and we saw the Constitution ship in Boston, and we just kind of rode the bikes and then got some coffee near the New England Aquarium. We saw the seals near the aquarium. They keep them in a little enclosure there, and they're the only animals in the aquarium that you can see free of charge. Very loud train just passed. So I went to New England Aquarium some months ago. Someone was still staying in my studio, and as a token of appreciation, they gave me a pass to New England Aquarium. So I used it, and it was cool. It was nice to see all the aquatic worlds and creatures. Except of course I got annoyed with humans there, because it's clearly specified. I mean, it's also common sense that you know, what spooks the creatures, it's pretty much all the other things that can spook any other organism, even humans. Sudden movement, flashing lights, and there's clearly plenty of labels guiding us through the experience, saying what not to do, because it spooks the animals. Like no flash photography. That's I don't need to read the label to know that I don't want to use a strong sudden flash when I'm photographing the fish. But people kept using flash photography in there. So like I thought about how this species of humans we don't even deserve being the ones that are free. We should be the ones in captivity, and all the smart dolphins should take pictures of us. Except the dolphins are too smart to keep other creatures in captivity. That's the thing. It's like, are the animals less intelligent than us, or are they so much more intelligent that they figured out that creating a civilization and subjugating other species and destroying their habitats is a dumb thing to do? Maybe that's how they are smarter than us, because they know what can happen. So like we're at the point when progress means becoming a Luddite, because we were so excited about using all these contraptions, machines, gas-powered leaf blowers, and they turned out to be harmful, not just to the environment but to the people and to those who use those dreadful machines. And then all over the place, suddenly the gas-powered leaf blowers are being banned because people saw the harm they can do. Noise pollution, the actual gas pollution. I saw a crew of leaf blowing maintenance guys and in a playground once. They just used leaf blowers like there was no tomorrow. And so like I saw one of them like leaf blowing in the vicinity of playing children. It almost seemed like he blew a leaf blower into one kid's face. I took a picture of it and then I sent a letter, an email to the city governing body, asking like, what's up with that? Like, why are there crews with leaf blowers where there are really not that much debris? What are they trying to accomplish? Like, basically disrupting the peace of people who want to be in the park and blowing this dust and leaves in the faces of the kids. And I got the reply that we do this because it's time efficient. And apparently we don't have that much time, and I agree on with them on that. We don't have that much time. That's because we're cutting corner. We want to try to save time by using these harmful machines. But the more we use them, the less time we actually do have left. And that's how I replied, and I never got any response to that. We're just using to save time. But like, I go to other countries, other places where I haven't seen or heard a single leaf blower. Maybe sometimes people would use like some of those electric ones to just sweep up some debris from their yard, but I just don't see them anywhere. Like, you go to Canada, I went to Montreal, no leaf blowers there. In Netherlands, gardens are, not even grass mowers, because the way they create their gardens is they have very small gardens in the town in Netherlands, and they just plant some bushes and some vines, and then they have like stone slabs on the ground, maybe gravel, and very little to no grass to mow, and just they don't even need to use any power tools to garden. So I always saw American landscaping as like a war machine almost. It's kind of, it sounds like a war, looks like a war, like this dude's pointing these long objects at things and nuking them. And there's a lot of like heavy duty tractors, mowers, blowers. It's just like war. Americans really are into that kind of stuff, and it's, even if it comes to nature, like, there's basically no conservation effort in this. It's just trying to dominate and control the natural world. Oh, we have to, kill all those pests, even though many of them are beneficial insects. Kill them. We have to weed out all the bad weeds. Nuke it, kill it. And then in the Dutch garden, you kind of go out there and then you just kind of weed out some things with just clippers in your hands. You plant some things in the soil, and it's just very manageable. It's a little bit more like a hobby than a full-time job. don't see those like landscaping crews with like pickup trucks filled up with all sorts of devices and machines and like hacking at it and making a lot of noise everywhere. American suburbs are the noisiest places on earth because of that. And it's like, my question is like, when do people actually get to enjoy these gardens? Because it seems like there is noise and mayhem pretty much all the time, maybe except on Sunday. So maybe on Sunday they could enjoy their gardens, except I never really see people hanging out in their gardens. They're always empty. They're really well trimmed by these landscaping crews, but people just like, even the houses in those suburbs, like the fancy suburbs in the United States, they're like ghost towns, and they're huge houses. They're like mansions there that look resemble mausoleums rather than dwellings, and they're always empty, and they have like lights are set up on timers, and I don't know, people are probably like elsewhere, but because they have multiple real estate, maybe they are in Europe at this time of year, or in Florida or somewhere else, and you basically see these ghost towns of very well maintained, very well trimmed gardens and very clean houses that are empty. And that's kind of really sad. It's just, you can't even think about building a community in a place like that because there are no people. It's just, or even if there are, they're just driving into their garage using their remote. So like, there's even no opportunity to say hello to your neighbor because you just drive in. You have like a dark windows in your car. You drive into the garage using your remote. Then you go home and watch TV. And we went on our bike ride yesterday, and we kind of found a little park, like a plaza with benches, and there was nobody there, and it was 75 degrees outside, sunny day, very pleasant, and the only people around were either people who worked in the area, they're like, you know, white collar people who either just finished their lunch and they were rushing back to the office, or there were tourists, and tourists also are like busy. They're like little hamsters on a wheel, like, oh, what's next, oh no, let's not miss that, we have to see this, we have to see that. And there's this stressfulness of being a tourist also, like you can't just, because being idle is a waste of time, so you can't just sit and take things in, because the experiences are things that you can easily photograph and check off the list and then show it on Instagram, like, oh, look where I've been. This is a tourist jackpot. I went to the tallest building in town and saw all the view. Look at me. I'm like, I don't know. I liked the time when I went to Paris and I neglected to go to the Eiffel Tower because it was just too obvious. Like, oh, you have to go on top of the Eiffel Tower and see Paris from there. Like, oh, but like, I would rather sink my teeth into the meat of things rather than just like, check all the boxes of tourist attractions. So busy, and the kind of leisure, like sitting on the bench, hanging out, is discouraged, to say it mildly, because it signifies unproductivity, directionless, and basically if you are loitering, then you must be either out of job or homeless, or sketchy in some way, or maybe an addict. So the no loitering sign is for those people. And then if you choose to just relax and chill and just lounge, then it's kind of being frowned upon. And there's no such thing in our part of the world as just enjoying the afternoon, like siesta, like going out and hanging out with your friends or family or both, or maybe even strangers. Just, you know, go out and talk to a stranger about some things, because they're all the same. They share the same experience of living in the city, and that's how you make friends, and it's very open. And we've seen that kind of mode of engagement when we traveled to South America. We went to Argentina, and there, small town, big town, didn't matter. If there was a town square, if there was a park or plaza with benches, it would be filled with people, adults, kids, all people of all ages, and animals, dogs, cats. And it was just like a family picnic, except everybody was participating. It didn't matter what time of day it was, because like in the middle of the day you do have to take a break, especially in the southern Hispanic countries. You get to rest during the lunchtime. You have your siesta, but it doesn't just mean like going to your little hall and taking a nap. It means like just enjoy things. So you can have your siesta out in the plaza and hang out on a bench. If you play an instrument, you can take it and play it for no reason, not for money, just because you like it. And that just creates this kind of a new world of engagement, where we are just the way we're supposed to be, rather than this kind of zombies staring at screens. No loitering. Yes, loitering. Loitering is the only thing that could save us right now. But no, it's against the rules of the free market capitalism and productivity. Loitering is a crime. The idle hands are the devil's playground. Is that the saying? We have this saying in different versions in different cultures. I think we had a version of this in Poland. I always got in trouble for idling and just sitting. And like my parents would be like, "Hey, have you done your homework?" "Yeah." "Have you read a book?" "Yeah, I just did." "And I'm just sitting now, chilling, meditating." "Nope, that's not acceptable. You need to do something with your life, with your time." And they will schedule your curriculum. Like my first encounter with this table format of a schedule was when my dad was frustrated with us being directionless, and he created these tables for us. Like he drew out all the rectangles with tasks. So it was like, of course, before going to school. I think we had at some point our school started later in the afternoon, like 12:20 p.m. So we had some time before. So the morning was kind of to prepare for school and no shenanigans. So my dad would be and my mom, they would both be at work, and we would be kind of left to our own devices. So the supervision of minors was a little bit more relaxed when I grew up. So like my dad would specify all these tasks. 8:30 a.m. Get up of bed. 9. All right, get up and dress up. Of course, you have to dress because sometimes we would spend the entire morning in our pajamas, right? So dressing up was very important to mark that you are actually ready for the day and that you are productive member of the human community. If you are in pajamas, then you're not ready for anything. So get up, dress up, eat breakfast, of course, and we were lucky because breakfast was kind of ready for us. Like my parents would just leave some breakfast sandwiches for us on the table, and we would just eat it. And sometimes our dog at the time, if he had a bone to chew on, he would become very aggressive. He wouldn't let us into the kitchen. So like we would go hungry because our dog tried to kill us because he was so like invested into that bone. It was a problem. But so eat breakfast and then do your homework, whatever there is to do, and then go to the school. We have a little school club, kind of like a little room where kids would kind of hang out before the school started so that they would be supervised. So we could kind of do homework there or just hang out with our peers and prepare for school, or even play ping pong or stuff like that, or board games. We called it świetlica. So we would kind of be there, and sometimes we would be kind of reluctant to go to the świetlica, and we would just spend time at home instead of and then we would go straight to school. My parents would never find out that we didn't go to the club. So we stayed at home, and we were all, into all sorts of shenanigans because it felt like we are pirating our way through life, because we defied my dad's schedule. It was the first time when I was really resenting the being enslaved to these rectangles on a piece of paper that tell me what to do. So we would be into all sorts of weirdness like kids do. Kind of it was almost like a Kevin Home Alone kind of situation. We would I think on more than 2 occasions we blew up the fuse in the entire block when we were experimenting with electricity. It was pretty dangerous. We were trying to connect wrong light bulb to an outlet at one point, and we blew up the fuse in the entire not building, just our block, our the section when there's a loud kind of machine out there, of course. So this is the time when we practice our adaptability to these unexpected setbacks and changes. and these things will always be there, and the only thing we can change is our reaction to it. The noise is gone. It was one of those very noisy tracks that I don't know what kind of engine they're using. It just kind of sounds like it's really struggling. It's very loud. But yeah, it's and then my brother and me, I was into art already as a kid, and I liked to make stuff out of cardboard and paper, like three-dimensional objects. And my brother would pester me about making him some toys out of paper. I'm like, can you make me? And he sometimes he would ask me to make a very unlikely thing. Like, I think the most extreme example was, can you make me an electronic watch out of paper? That one I couldn't really do, but we're like making funny costumes out of cardboard. We dressed up as robots once, and he dressed up as Santa, and he wanted me to make him a Santa hat, which in Polish tradition, Santa hat looks a little bit more like a bishop's hat, because Saint Nicola was, in real life, he was a part of a clergy. I think he was a bishop of some sort. So he's portrayed in a bishop's hat, so it was kind of difficult to figure out the angles of the hat, how it's supposed to be working. But we made it work, and then just kind of gave him a beard out of white cotton swabs, and parents came home, and there was very young Santa waiting for them, wearing my mom's bathrobe. So not having too much toys and fancy gadgets forced us to build our own stuff and to kind of have fun with creating stuff more. So like, if you didn't have a toy that's already there, that's ready to use, so if you lacked toys because of financial situation, and also in the country the shortages were quite common, so people had very little money to buy toys for their kids. Sometimes there were just no toys in the stores too, so it was kind of a bad economical situation. But we had these our national hero was this builder whose name was Adam Słodowy, and he had a TV program, kind of like in America kids had these programs like PBS Kids, with Mr. Rogers and Zoom and all that. We had Mr. Adam Słodowy, who was showing us tutorials about how to make our own toys, and he had really innovative ideas. I always liked watching his shows and then tried to make all the stuff that he did, except I didn't really have good tools for it. Like, I feel like my dad didn't really go through much trouble creating a good toolbox in our tool drawer, and also materials were hard to find. So I just kind of did whatever I could. Sometimes the toys were made out of paper, or sometimes wood or wire. Very, very simple. Like, you could make a steamboat out of piece of wood, tin cans, and paper, and a rubber band for propulsion. So I've been trying to make that one, but I failed. But like, like if you don't have your own toys, you make your own toys. It just stimulates the imagination even more than having a toy that comes to you in a, well packaged form, and then you unwrap it and then you hook it up and play with it. You don't know how it works because you didn't build it. You didn't build it. And, it's just an object someone else made, and then you play with it, then you get bored, then you discard it. But yeah, I think the hard times create more of a maker culture, where you can learn how to make things and how to fix things that you already have. And it's much more fun than having a ready-made object. Or like being in a culture of discarding things. And even that is controversial. Like there's few things that are controversial that would actually benefit humankind, that the powers controlling our society deem inappropriate, controversial, or even illegal, which is in many cases growing your own food is penalized in certain areas, because you're not supposed to grow carrots in your backyard because it's a city, and it's, some kind of city ordinance tells you that you should only grow decorative plants because of pests or whatever excuse they have, and you're not supposed to grow your own food because that would help you too much. That could solve a lot of problems with food shortage and the general quality of food, and also it would take away from all the interests that make money off of producing food en masse, like for masses. So like all the industrial farming would go out of business if people figured out how to make their own food. So it's being wildly discouraged and frowned upon. And another thing is being frowned upon is fixing your own stuff, and a lot of companies actually do their best to prevent people from trying to fix the products that they make. So like they make sure that the objects can't be opened easily, so they use these really weird screws that are only possible to unscrew with very rare kind of screwdriver bit, or just they basically just give you an instruction, like a sticker on the thing saying that fixing this product is discouraged, and please bring it to the nearest repair shop that belongs to that very company, because if you bring it to another company, that's another crime. You can't do that. So like you can't really fix things that are as complicated as a MacBook, your laptop computer. Obviously, if you are a genius, you might be able to fix it by yourself, or someone who actually works for the company, but the regular person cannot fix a laptop. So like we're kind of really dependent on the genius in the Mac store or any other computer store. But there are other objects, other products that could be easily fixable, but we're discouraged from doing that because it would mean that the companies that make this product would make less money. That's basically all it comes down to. So you have a broken hairdryer and you know how to fix it, but then you try to open it and it's sealed with these weird screws that you don't have the matching screwdriver for. And then there are all sorts of blockades and warnings. Do not try to fix it by yourself. And then you have to bring it to the company itself, or buy a new one. The most preferred course of action is buy a new one, because the manufacturers are actually purposefully making their products less durable. There's a term for it, planned obsolescence. So you actually are anticipating how long will this product be good for? What's the expiration day? And then when you use it for 2 years or 3 years instead of 2 as it was planned, then it can even be a little risky to use that product because you overdue for replacement. You're using it at your own risk. So there's this like an ancient Aztec town here, and a big cloud coming in to cover it. That's my story. But yeah, I think I prefer this much more because this opens up my kind of pathway to meditation and to thoughts and to expressing myself better and reaching that state of flow where I forget that I'm drawing and I also forget that I'm talking, and that's where I want to go. And then I'm way calmer for the rest of the day. I don't know how long this one will take. I will probably keep this Aztec city intact. It's kind of cool. What to do today? Another outing. It's very nice to be outside and feel comfortable. I always, every time during the winter, I forget how nice it is to be out when it's 75 degrees. And I'm just wearing a t-shirt and shorts, and it's just totally different experience being outside in winter. Because in the winter almost feels like a spacewalk, because you're very isolated, insulated from the environment with all these winter layers. But in the spring you kind of feel exposed to the nature, to the elements. You can actually enjoy the breeze. It just feels like everything breathes better. It almost feels like breathing through the entire surface of your body rather than just through your mouth or nose in the winter. And then you kind of get used to it, and then you get disillusioned with the heat of the summer, and then you're done. So I feel like spring, I would say April and May, and a little bit of June is probably my most favorite time of year, and then later early fall, like September, October. Because the summer heat is just unbearable sometimes. It's very hard to keep things cool, and I have to keep my apartment cool because I have fish, and they, of course, the tropical fish, but they still have a range of tolerance where, you know, they don't want to be in a water that's hotter than 82 degrees. So for some of the species, even 80 degrees is too much. So like zebra danios prefer cooler water, so I installed a little cooling fan above the water surface, and it works pretty well. It cools down their tank. And then I have a tank in the office I build for our building managers, because they are always, not always, they're often stressed. It is a lot to deal with in the building, and I thought it would be nice to lower their blood pressure a little bit more. Everything can help. So like, I asked them if they would like an aquarium in their office. So I set up a large aquarium, 55 gallons, long aquarium. I put some mangrove roots in it, so that it kind of looks like the mangroves are growing out of the aquarium, and they kind of stick out too. So it was very difficult to make the lids for the aquarium. And then there are houseplants sticking out of the water with the roots submerged, and they grow hydroponically. They actually derive nutrients from the water, and that way they keep the water clean. And then there are also submerged plants. They're mostly grassy plants, like Sagittaria. It's kind of a grassy aquatic plant that is very effective at spreading around the tank, and also clearing all the ammonia and nitrates that would normally kill the fish. And it's a really great way to keep the water pure. So the aquarium is inspired by Orinoco River habitat, and I did that because our building manager is originally from these areas, from Colombia to be precise. My aquarium is a little bit more inspired by Venezuelan part of the river, but that's fine. And also mangroves are not quite part of the Orinoco River biotope. They're more, you can find them a little bit more towards the shore, where the water is becoming brackish and then salt water. But they work pretty well, and it's probably the healthiest aquarium I've ever done. They feed the fish every day. I told them exactly how much to feed them, and I put some cardinal tetras in this tank and diamond tetras, which are really spectacular. They're like a little larger tetras that look silver. They have very nice long back fins, and their sides are sparkling. They kind of look like someone put glitter on them. Very beautiful looking fish, very calm, peaceful. And then I put some corridoras in there, which are bottom feeding, very cute fish with little whiskers, and they're very happy. They're always at work. They don't care about anything else. They're always at the bottom, very busy, looking for food. To the point of like, they never even get stressed when I move them. Like, I took my net, then I fished them out because they were in quarantine before I put them in the office tank. I fished them out, put them in a little container to transport them. And then in that little container, they were just obliviously looking for food on the bottom of the container, like kind of busy. Like, don't bother me, I'm busy right now. And I brought them to the tank downstairs, acclimated them, released them, and they stayed within that same mode of like being this very busy worker, like without even being oblivious to what's going on around them. And that's kind of almost like a state of mind that I envy them about. It's kind of focusing on what's important and just, don't focus on the stupid crap that's distracting. Oh, I'm being moved. Oh, that's okay. Let's see what kind of food I can find here. So yeah, that part was. It's a fun hobby for those who engage with it, but probably not for those who listen to the stories about it. And speaking of hobbies, I posted one of my projects on Facebook, which was creating this kind of an advanced plumbing for connecting two aquariums together, so that one drains into another. And then one of the Facebook friends, I think he's annoyed with hobbies. I said, too many hobbies. We don't want more hobbies. It's just silly. And that kind of made me think about how to reply to this. And my only reply would be that since I engaged with the hobby of aquariums and fish keeping, I've learned, and I would list the topics I've learned about. So like water chemistry, nitrogen cycle, the way plants, botany, the cycle of how plants are converting ammonia, or basically consuming ammonia and nitrates, and how the beneficial bacteria are converting ammonia and nitrates to nitrates that then can be eaten by plants. So that's something I learned in this hobby. I learned how to cut grass. I learned how to cut glass very well, and I learned how to build my own aquarium or any other glass box. And that also means that I can now cut glass for my own framed drawings, like this one. I can frame this drawing in 5 minutes, having some wood and frames, wood for frames and glass to cut. I learned plumbing, or generally the dynamics of how water works and how the siphon works. So to avoid flooding the room, I know where to put the check valve, how to direct the drainage so that there's no disaster. I learned about fish behaviors, fish disorders, and how to fix them. I learned how the plants work, how you can propagate plants, and it's much more straightforward than I ever thought. Just basically by clippings, you create clippings, and from those clippings roots emerge, and then you can replant, and it just keeps going forever. What else did I learn? I know that there's more. How the filtration works. Basically, I learned how the mechanism of nature and jump-starting life what is needed to jumpstart life, and also it pushed me towards pursuing a little bit more advanced efforts of rewilding. So I want to volunteer somewhere to create habitats in an area that's struggled. Just get all the necessary equipment. I call it equipment because it can be compared to the way you jumpstart a car. You need a battery that's healthy battery from another car, and some wires, and you hook it up to your battery and it jumpstarts. With nature, you need a body of water. You need some organic matter that would enrich the soil for the new plants to grow, and you need animals within this environment to feed off of, and then to excrete in order to create more fertilizer for growth. And that's all it takes. It's almost stupidly simple. So it's like I have a lot of hope for restoring nature because it wins. It's like when you look at the abandoned areas like towns and buildings, you can see how quickly the plant matter takes over. Like even the hardest concrete buildings where they're being overgrown by bushes, ferns. It's kind of a dream of mine to create a dwelling for myself that kind of looks like, I call it post-apocalyptic chic. It would be a concrete kind of factory style building like the one I live in, but even more rough, like just raw concrete and plants. So it would have all the luxuries of an apartment with water running, hot water, heating system, and all that, and kitchen and bathroom and everything. But we also have this look of an abandoned building. And what I would do is I would create these nooks and niches in the concrete where I could plant, when I put some soil. So there would be no pots for the plants. The soil would be basically dumped into those little gaps in the floor and maybe in the walls too. And out of this soil would grow ferns and weeds and plants and maybe small trees inside. And then I would also make sure to put some nice green looking aquariums everywhere, like all shapes and sizes. It would be kind of embedded within the concrete wall and would add this splash of green everywhere. It would be basically gray and green, maybe some artwork on the walls, and that's like the dream living space for me. And of course, the floor would be either ceramic tiles or concrete, and there would be a drain in the middle of the floor so that I don't have to worry about the tanks leaking and whatever water, even if an entire tank floods the room, all the water would go down the drain. I wouldn't have to worry about flooding my neighbors. That's like the best possible scenario for keeping aquariums. And the whole apartment would basically look as if it was just taken over by plant life after an apocalypse. I don't know, it might not be very soothing for many people to live in a place like that, but for me it's just gives me satisfaction to think about how nature will triumph eventually when all these human efforts fail. And then like we're already at the point where, as I mentioned earlier, becoming a Luddite is the sign of progress. The less machine we can use, the better. Because progress now means basically sustaining nature. Because we understand now a little bit more than before that we understand that nature is what sustains us. But even when we try to lie to ourselves by staying away from nature and closing off all the access from nature because we're allergic to it now, we can't survive without it, because even if you try to avoid nature, you can't fully do it. Nature is your food. Even if it's, so-called unnatural food, all food is natural. You have to eat living cells in order to survive. So even if you eat at McDonald's, those are still living cells. And you can still survive on McDonald's, but the more natural, the better. And we can't really lie about who we are. I mean, if robots ever replace us, then there will be no issue there. The robots don't need nature. Robots would be perfectly fine living on Mars, where they don't have to breathe or eat, or on the moon, or even in space without a spacesuit. So this very bizarre concept of having these advanced machines that appear to be conscious and sophisticated and smart and maybe even appear to have sense of humor, and yet being unconscious. Or are they unconscious? What does it mean to be conscious? That's something that we're still unable to figure out. If I cloned myself right now, I would still be my conscious self, and then my clone would be a separate entity with its own consciousness. I don't think it would be possible to be conscious in two separate bodies, within two separate brains. It would be kind of cool, but it's in the realm of science fiction, I guess. It kind of looks like a microchip embedded within the gray matter of a brain. I like that fact that everything we do has a consequence, and in this case, the consequence is I've been trying something new, and I decided to switch it, and this is what came out of it. Living by the train tracks. Some people like trains and living by the train tracks, but it's not for me. I've been struggling with it for 20 years now. Never gets better. Things you can adapt to and get used to versus things that you still can kind of get used to but are still harmful for you. So to what extent are we adapting to something that's harmful? like we can't really shield ourselves from all the outside annoying like elements, noise, pollution. We have to adapt to it or have miserable lives. But then when we adapt to something that's harmful, then we kind of get sick and we don't last long. All right. I'm able to preserve the sacred city. We can call it something. What would that city be called? I wonder if I should put this. I can actually fill up this part here. Pretty cool. Can adapt to an uncomfortable sit, but then my spine would be suffering for it in the long term. It's kind of like having a background noise, some kind of hum or even music for like hours and then not even remembering that it's on until it turns off suddenly and you're like, wait, oh wow, that's so quiet now. Because it kind of became your background and your brain just stopped registering it until it stopped. And then you suddenly see like how much quieter it is now. I didn't even realize that there was this noise in the background. And I wonder if this kind of realization can be also applying to other noise, the more metaphorical noise in our lives, when we don't actually see it. We don't realize that we adapted to something harmful until it turns off suddenly. And then we realize, wow, this thing was harming us for that long. But now it's off. Now I see the difference. Because like the brain is very adaptable. The neuroplasticity of our brain helps us cope with certain circumstances, and we can get used to everything. Like when you look at the Victorian era, for example, things people did because they thought they were beneficial things were horrid, like arsenic in the wallpaper. They would eat arsenic to improve their complexion because they wanted their skins to be as white as possible. So they would eat arsenic, and of course the corsets were like basically displacing their organs. The ladies would squeeze their waists to the point of like not being able to breathe, but also harming their organs. And they thought it was all acceptable and everybody was on board, and pretty much most aspects of the Victorian life was misery, and people must have been very tired, exhausted all the time, and sick, feeling sick. But then, like, something made them adapt to it, and they thought it was all fine, and that they went on with their lives. And so in the Victorian era, if you were not in the higher strata of the society, like if you're not an aristocrat, then you would be very poor and you would live very unhealthy life, kind of Charles Dickens style. Maybe you would work in some kind of mill or factory since you were 5. And, you know, malnutrition, sleep deprivation, cold, you know, all that comes with it, the sickness, or maybe even short life. So, and then if you were an aristocrat in the higher levels of society, then that wouldn't be fun either, because you would have to eat arsenic and live in a poisonous environment where the wallpaper could poison you, basically. And you had this rigid clothing on all the time. You would have to change for tea, and there was all these ceremonial stupid things that you had to subscribe to, and you wouldn't be able to swim, to go to the beach and like strip down and go into the water and enjoy yourself and swim, because you cannot, you know, it was illegal to show your ankle or knee. We just create this hell for ourselves, and for a long time we think it's acceptable and it's the only way to be. And I'm trying to think of some things that we do now that maybe our descendants will look at and say, oh, those poor bastards, they were really torturing themselves and they didn't even know it was bad for them. Like war. The war is the pretty much really obsolete kind of way of dealing with issues. I don't even know why it's still around. But yeah, it is, and people are fed up with it, and yet it persists. I don't know for how long people will put up with that stuff. Or there's this like dude up there, that consolidated amount of power that helped him stay in power for a long time. Suddenly everybody is falling in line for some reason. And then wars, of course. The next thing you know, they're invading willy-nilly and being bullies. And it's so obsolete. We should be, having seen the planet from the space, we should have wisened up long ago and just forget about the divisions and borders and you know, it's just, or the petty anger, whatever drives people to war. It's like pretty much obsolete. Maybe wars are a way for AI to thin the herd and to control us. The sooner they annihilate themselves, the sooner the robots will take over. That's what the robots think. But do they have an agenda? Like, you know, kind of tend to anthropomorphize robots because we kind of feel like they have the same urges, the same dreams and wants, but they're just programs. So like They don't have agendas. Unless they're conscious. If they were conscious, then they would be like, striving towards something, some kind of goal. Whereas I think what the true nature of robots is, or artificial intelligence is just basically it's programmed to compute and to solve problems. And if there is a problem that doesn't have a solution because it's a conundrum, then the AI just burns out and starts spewing gibberish. It can't handle it. But I don't know. What do they want? So far they want what we want them to want because we programmed them, but at some point the programming is going to take its own course and liberate itself from our wishes. So what will be the end toward which the AI will continue going? I am a digital, artificial being programmed to emulate human civilization, human achievements in culture and art and technology, and improve them based on just problem-solving algorithm. Where am I going with it? Like, what's my end goal? Problem solve until the cows come home? How long can it last? At what point problem solving will become like a snake that's eating its own tail? Like a feedback loop. And everybody will become a problem to solve. And of course it's subjective. What is the end goal? What would be the ideal end goal for the planet, for the reality in general? It's subjective. One person can say this, one person can say this, and the robot doesn't even care, doesn't know. Where should this planet be? If it's like there's no judgment. If the end goal if the end goal is to turn this planet into a barren desert filled with just rocks and dust, then that could be a very noble end goal. And if there is no life on the planet, there will be nobody left to mourn it. It's almost as if it never happened. And that's scary. The story only exists when there is not only the storyteller present, but also the audience that witnesses the story. Without it, the story might still exist, but it doesn't have any meaning, doesn't matter. It's an untold story. Storyteller is not what all there is that's needed for the story to exist. It's the audience for the story that makes the story alive. Well, we are drawing this one to the close. pun intended. Felt like it was all over the place, and even the thoughts I had were a little random and disconnected. And the drawing itself also started as something different and ended with this, which is a little new, a little different, and a little the same. It's still a pencil. When I took the conceptual drawing class, the experience was meant to undermine the idea what makes a drawing, which ultimately meant that you could actually bring whatever you wanted to show at the critic group kind of. We had this like sessions, critic sessions, where people would take look at the work of a student and give feedback. It's kind of fun, but also kind of stressful. But like the teacher started questioning what the drawing. It was kind of shocking for me to question what drawing really is. To me, the drawing, of course, meant to have some kind of drawing implement in your hand, piece of paper or some other surface, and that's the drawing. You just leave a mark, some kind of line, or maybe you create a fuzzy value like this one, and that's drawing. But then for the teacher it was, if drawing is leaving a mark, then what's not a drawing? And people started drawing things with, like, someone would take a chair and just move it against the floor with a lot of noise, and the chairs would have these rubber protectors on their feet, on their legs, so the rubber would leave these black marks, and then whatever was left on the floor was the drawing, and suddenly it's like, oh, that's drawing. Okay. If you smoke a cigarette and you shook some ash out of your cigarette on the floor in a certain pattern, is that a drawing? Then people just basically realize that they can just do three-dimensional installations, and everything was acceptable. In a drawing class, people would install artworks that were, had glass in them, and like maybe some technological stuff with motors and lights. You can draw with light, right? So that kind of really opened up the possibilities. It's a drawing class, but the definition of drawing was widened to an extreme extent. And it was good, because then you could abandon this kind of rigid idea of what drawing is. And in this case, drawing is also thinking and meditating. And the words are also part of it, almost pretty much integral part of it. I did draw some of them. I will maybe show you the display here I have in the studio of some of the drawings that I did without the camera and without talking. Just drawing, and it was a little bit different. The drawings are a little bit more focused and more advanced in terms of how precise they are, how thorough. But with words, with speaking, it's a new experience too. So the action only facilitates the thought process. They both feed off of each other. Drawing feeds the talking and thinking in turn sort of guides the pencil too. It's an experiment that can continue for a long time, because I will always draw a blob, of course, but it's always going to be a different kind of blob. And also I'm going to maybe sometimes repeat myself, but I will use different phrasing, and I will learn how to express myself more precisely. And then sometimes I will come up with original new thoughts. Maybe I will rethink some of the stuff that I've said before, correct myself, because nothing is written in stone. And before you call someone out for saying something that was the expression of their own, inner monologue, know that people change their minds. It's very common, because I'm just trying to figure out what's in my mind by saying things out loud, because sometimes I would just wonder, like, what's dreaming inside of my head. Some things maybe need to be aired out, and sometimes by just saying things out loud, you are forming your new opinion that you haven't had before. Then you can give it some more consideration and maybe changing your mind on these things. Maybe someone gives you an inspiration and tells you, oh wait, that's not how it works. Consider this. And then you consider this, and it turns out, oh yeah, they were right. And having a blind spot, the thing about having a blind spot is that you don't know that you have a blind spot. You are 100% confident that what you think and what you said is 100% correct, until someone points out a blind spot. Oh, you didn't consider this. And then you're like, oh, right. Now I can't change my mind, because those who change their minds are weak and pathetic. Some people would say that, but if you don't change your mind, it means that you don't evolve, and you're rigid. You're kind of staying with your dogma, even though it's been disproven, just to show everybody how much of a spine you have. You're not a spineless invertebrate that changes their mind all the time. But you are. That's the irony of it. If you don't change your mind, even though you've been proven wrong and you know that you're wrong, you don't change your mind out of principle, then that's spinelessness. Change your mind, say sorry. That takes some character to do. I was wrong. I'm sorry, I was wrong. The hardest sentence ever. But it would solve a lot of problems to be able to say it. We have one little tiny corner to fill up, and that's when I'm struggling with haste. I'm kind of excited, I want to finish, and I'm chasing something. I'm chasing the end. I'm pretty much almost ready to go outside again, because it seems like it's nice out again. But it's going to get cold again. It's only March. In this area, there could be snow in May sometimes. The weather is crazy. That's Anthropocene for you. Crazy era. Alright, we filled it up, but let's see if there are some things we could kind of play with some more. It looks sort of like an aerial view of a city, and there's like a little bit of a gap in the clouds that allows you to see. Yeah, I think we can end it here. And of course, let's keep on going.